What up, guys? It's Delaet here. I'm in the studio working on crazy music shit. I think it's 3 in the morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about strategy finding. So there I was today. One of my students came to see me. He drove up to hang out, get lunch, and pick my brain over some stuff. He's like, I'm stuck at effect of these people in my life and parents and things. And I said, okay. He said, I feel like every time they do something, I flip out and I just need to cut people out of my life. And I said, maybe, because that's how I coach. And I never give any definitive answers and let people come up with their own shit. And he's like, yeah, well, said if I'm going to be dealing with toxic behavior, I could just cut it out of my life. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Or you could just stop caring about it. Or you can not let it affect you. Or you could figure out the reason why they're employing that behavior, since nobody really has ill intentions when they're performing something. There's always a positive intent behind it. And it's like, well, no, because, it's like there's nothing universal, man. You're choosing your experience of what's going on. If they're acting a certain way and it triggers you, you're choosing a response to the trigger. Like, you're choosing your behavior. You could choose to find it ridiculous and laugh out loud. You could choose to spiral out of control and flip out for the next 5 days. You could cut them off and never look back again, but you're going to bring you with you. If you haven't dealt with your choice of behavior when people trigger you, you're just going to replace that person that you cut out with somebody else who's going to give you the same trigger, and you're not going to act any differently. It's really your choice and your strategy of how to deal with that when it comes up that forces you to grow. And so he learned a little bit today, and we talked at great length about trauma and familial enmeshment and all this stuff. But I think the core of today's talk was about choosing your behavior when you had previously blamed the external for it. We live in this balance between external and internal stuff. Like, things happen in the external environment. Things manifest, things are fucked up, something happens, and then we choose a response. We have an emotional response that gets, it's mapped by our trauma, it's mapped by our previous reference experiences, but then we choose behavior after that. We can choose to shut down, or we can choose to get louder, or we can choose to laugh, or we can choose to bring up a bunch of other memories and then get more depressed. Like, there's a bunch of different ways we can choose to deal with new stimulus. And I think it's important to just understand that you have options. You're not just stuck on one behavioral response. Robert Cialdini, the guy who wrote Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, great book, by the way. He studied a bunch of cults. He calls it the click-whir effect. Click-whir, like an old tape recorder. Like, you have this thing that plays if you hit play, and you just push the button every time you get triggered. Up, play the script. You're not even consciously acting the script out. You just sort of play it. It's like, up, trigger, go. And you just constantly, robotically repeat the same scripts over and over again unless you choose to change the tape. And that's really what coaching is in general, is letting people know that they have options. So I let this guy know he had options. I think it's important that as you go through and you're learning social skills, you're learning dating, you're learning self-care, you're learning to build your own self-esteem, that you understand that you have options on how you respond to environmental cues, how you respond to other people's behavior. You can't control other people, necessarily, but you can control how you choose to respond. So your exercise today is to find a trigger that really ticks you off. Try to find one that you kind of flip out and lose control over. And then write down 5 other ways to respond that you could use instead of the way that you normally do it. Just to be knowledgeable that those things exist. If you can't think of any other way to respond, try to put yourself in the shoes of another person who would respond differently. If there's somebody who's more chilled out than you, or there's somebody who's more high strung than you, that you know, well, how would they respond in this situation? They act a little bit differently. And write those down, because now you have a model for the new strategy. There's a bunch of things to click up in here. Add me on social media. I do this every damn day. Tomorrow I won't be so late. Maybe I'll be awake. But I'll see you guys then. Till then, stay awesome.